I'm stuck here in Cleveland, so I'm not going to see a ring anytime soon. Maybe I should
Never.
become, I should become a Bengals fan now, just to at least get on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
So. Hey everybody, how's it going? We are on Natty Chat's episode 3. We got Colin Congo, Derek Joe, the legend Philip Ricardo. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good. What's up?
Doing great. Know how Colin's doing.
Yeah, that's right. Go Bird.
Man.
Happy to be here.
Outstanding. Well, I'm stuck here in Cleveland, so I'm not going to see a ring anytime soon. Maybe I should
never.
I should become a Bengals fan now, just to at least get on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
So anyway, congratulations, Derek, for winning number 2 of the classic Mr. Olympia. It's good stuff, man. Very happy for you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, feels good to have number 2.
Outstanding. Great stuff. The first topic we were talking about before coming on board tonight is right around now. The timing of this video is January 29th. This is right around the time that a lot of people that have made their New Year's resolution to get in shape are starting to wane off, even though this is about the time you shouldn't stop. You should never stop, honestly. But to those that are starting to thinking of not continuing, what's some advice you can give them?
Well, I would just say, remember why you started in the first place. You just got to go back to the beginning. A lot of times if you are feeling, discouraged, or maybe life is just hitting you in the mouth and, you're getting busy and now you're getting out of those original habits that you started to change. Because a lot of times people are doing something new, right? They're trying to go to the gym when they're getting off of work, and usually they don't do that. So their schedules are just changing. Maybe they have kids, family, different dynamics going on. So you just have to go back to the beginning, remember why you did it or wanted to start in the first place. And you just have to align yourself with what the type of person would be doing with those habits, and just, try to go back to that and stay true to that as best as you can.
Outstanding. Phil, you have the most experience out of all of us. Have there ever been times where you just lagged and maybe took a little bit more time off than you should have?
I think I'd be a bad example because I've never, for me, when you have the goals every year of something big, whether it's the Natural Olympia or whatever competitions, it's easy for me to, continue on and stay in shape. You form a habit, and I think that's the word that Derek said over and over again is habit. When you have a habit that you create via lifestyle, and you make it work no matter what situations are going on. We've all got military experience where, you might get deployed, you might, have a change in job schedules and things like that. But you just make it work anyway, whether you have to work out in the morning time and evening time, you have to adjust your food schedules where you may not be able to get like good food from a restaurant or cooking. You just have to eat like MREs or tuna fish cans and rice cakes. I've been able to do that. And sometimes that's got to be imparted on those who, don't have that kind of discipline or habit forming, and say, look, no matter what, get yourself a coach that's going to be able to motivate you. Make sure you have a firm goal. Make sure you might have to have them sign up for something that's going to be like a transformation or a competition, so that they, no matter what, have to stick with that New Year's resolution. There's no backing out of it. And that might help them to stay on course. But for me, for the past 30 years, once I got on stage that first time, I've never been able to, not have like something to look forward to and stick on course and rarely miss a workout.
All right. Well, Colin, how about you, Austin?
Yeah. So, one of my, kind of the big things that I would say would, a lot of times with folks that set that goal for a January 1st start date, right? Like they're this resolution, and they set this goal in mid-November or mid-October or whatever that may be. Like January 1, I'm getting in there, right? And so they go from virtually doing nothing to now I'm going 5 days a week, right? And so that I think leads to a lot of people giving themselves the opportunity to kind of fall off, right? I mean, I think one of the biggest things in our, you know, in these, all of you guys can speak to it, is consistency, right? And so if you can start off with something that is sustainable, that you can do consistently, you're more likely, I think, to see long-term progress and to stick with your goal long-term. So, you know, I would encourage folks to say, instead of saying January 1, I'm going to start hitting 5 days a week or 6 days a week, and I hear it all the time. Like, say I'm going to start off with 2 days a week, right? And then once you nail that in January, to February, let's try 3 days a week, right? And just try to build on that so that you're less likely, I think, to find yourself falling off because of some plan that you set for yourself that doesn't align with a schedule that you had all of the previous years, right? Or, you know, multiple years. So, that's one thing I would say. And then just to piggyback off of what the legend said is having a deadline, like a goal date is huge. I explain to people all the time, I'm like, you know, I've competed almost every year since I started, you know, bodybuilding, right? Back in 2009, been a long time now, just every year done multiple shows, a show here, you know, at least one, sometimes some years 3. But, you know, having that hard date is very important for me. I don't know if you guys have ever tried it, but to just be in January and be like, you know what, I'm going to cut like 5 pounds. It's hard. Right. Just, I mean, because I'm like, man, my next show is in September. Like, I don't really care about these 5 pounds, but like, you tell yourself you do,
Yeah.
right? But then like by the weekend, it's like, well, this weekend's fine. Right. You know, but when we're in contest prep and we have a hard date that's 9 weeks from now or 8 weeks from now, like, we get locked in. I mean, you guys are all the type of dudes that just get laser focused and we won't waver, right? So having that hard deadline, and tell people about it too. Like, hey, you know, September, you know, June 1st, man, I got this show or whatever. Like, that's accountability there. So anyways.
Outstanding.
Perfect.
That kind of leads me to my next question. And I got like a 2-part question here. So I'm the newest guy on the block here, obviously with the I'm the second oldest person, just so we know. So, you know, man, second oldest person on the group.
Derek's not that old.
Yeah. Right. He may look it, but he's not that
in there.
So I do have I am the least experienced out of the bunch, and I've noticed from myself, when there's the gain phase and or the off season, it's real easy to put down the calories that you just think don't count, and then next thing you know, the scale is going a little bit higher than it should. So what are your strategies during the gain phase and or off season to make sure the fat monster stays a little bit at bay? Colin, please.
Yes. So I'm somewhat of a science junkie when it comes to this stuff, right? Like, I'm a numbers guy. Like, I was back when everybody, I think, didn't think that macros were a real thing, right? All that matters is that you ate chicken, rice, and broccoli. Like, I was counting numbers, right? Calories they matter, right? So anyways, I have really, to that end, I recognize that the literature suggests that we really don't need to put on a crazy amount of body fat in order to drive progress, right? Like, you can see substantial, significant gains as lean as like 8% body fat. So and I've been a guy that lets myself get to 25% body fat in the off season, let me tell you, right? And, you know, as a natural bodybuilder, right? I'm like, oh, it's bulk season. I'm eating everything that's not bolted down, put on 55 pounds of weight, right? And then I get back on stage and I'm like a half pound heavier than last year, right? like, was it really worth putting on 55 pounds to get a pound or maybe 2 pounds out of that? Like, no, right? But now that I kind of know better, I think we should do better, right? And so you're saving yourself a lot of work when it comes time to taking that fat back off if you just, you know, go ahead and put in the work now that it takes to stay leaner in the off season. That's my suggestion.
Derek, have you same thing going on for you then, or?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because Coach Phil and I were talking about this as far as just like the, putting on the weight, because, that's what happened to me like last year and the year before. I'm ended up like 194, and then last year I was 204 in my off season, and then I'm still cutting down to 163 and 162 pounds both years I'm on the Natural Olympia stage. It was like, well, was that really worth it? Like Colin said, I'm only gaining a couple pounds of muscle. So it's not really worth it, as far as putting on the weight. And as far as maintaining it, because we've been doing it, I've been an athlete even as a younger kid and through high school and college. So certain habits, again, I've already had those habits of eating healthy during the week and almost as a lifestyle. So when my body weight does get to a certain point, or my body fat does get to a certain point, I already know as a gauge, like, okay, I need to just put things at bay for a little bit, because I know I don't want to get too much higher. I think just through all that experience of the prepping 5, 6, 7 meals a day, we know how to cut things out or, adjust certain things a little bit to make sure we're not going too far overboard if we need to. We've just learned our bodies so much at this point. And it'll just come down to planning. If you feel like you're getting too high, you just have to plan better ultimately, as far as if you're going out to restaurants or, Super Bowl's coming up, it doesn't mean you don't eat all day so you can eat chicken wings and, and all that and have beer in the evening. But, you just try to manage those calories as best you can and keep it at a maintenance level.
So calories still count in the off season is kind of what we're getting at.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I wish they didn't, trust me.
unless you weigh one potato chip at a time, right?
Well, Phil, you were in the Marine Corps during a lot of your career. So it was like, if you got chubby, you were going to get, shamed, but you're also going to get in a little bit of trouble. So did you ever have any issues in your earlier career with that?
No, not at all. I was very skinny. I went into the Marine Corps, same height, 5'9", and I was like 145 pounds.
Wow.
During boot camp, I actually gained weight, which is surprising. With all the activity, I gained like 10 pounds, so went to 155. And then when I was stationed in Japan, I was finally able to like eat. And, what I did, like most Marines, during the weekdays, I just ate, trained. And so I probably put on a good 5-10 pounds then. And then on the weekends, I was partying, drinking. So I lost those 5 pounds and pretty much like wasted all the progress I did during the week. But, as I started getting more involved in sport, I did try to gain weight because that's before I even knew, about natural bodybuilding. I was trying to compete with those NPC guys as a natural athlete. And so I just thought weight was the most important thing. But then, like you said, being in the Marine Corps, I could only go so high before they started like taping me. And back then when I was in, they didn't even have the tape. It was like, if you're overweight, you're on the, the fat platoon. And I was like, wow. And it's like, well, you're a bodybuilder and so they gave me some lenience, but I still had to do that. And then luckily, I think shortly after is when they did the body fat thing, where they tape your neck and your waist. But I really didn't have any issues, but I did learn really early on that it's more about being athletic, not letting yourself get too, far out of shape, just like Derek was saying, and maintaining is more of a lifestyle. I had an image to uphold too. I couldn't just, let myself go after a while, which is the great thing about this sport, even though we can gain weight and make it as an excuse, but sometimes we want to uphold that image and have more opportunities, especially within the sport. It's best to stay within a relatively close to contest shape. So.
Okay, good stuff. You mentioned earlier, Phil, about having a good coach. I'm calling on you first because you've been in the game of a long time. And so what are some attributes that people should be looking for in a coach?
Yeah, great question. One thing is someone that, communicates with you on a regular basis, because I think a lot of people are seeing now that if you have a coach that gives you like some vanilla plan, that he sends out to you once a month, and then you don't hear from him to give you the feedback on, your progress, making sure that, you're on pace with your weight loss, and even just getting pictures and feedback from that, then you're just paying for someone who's not really going to be honest with you. And there's a lot of coaches that do that because they have so many clients. So that might be another thing too. If there's a coach that has so many clients that they're not able to give you that, proper attention, I say look elsewhere. You know, you definitely want to choose somebody who's very reputable. You know, for me, I've always said that someone like a Cliff Wilson or a Lane Norton, those guys, they're at the top of my list because I know those guys. I've seen the results that they get from their clients. So, you know, I'd even say, hey, don't go to me. If you want to work with me, fine. But I would tell you, go to Cliff, go to Lane. Those guys are going to get you right, you know, if you can afford them. But, you know, and besides that, I would say, I mean, maybe a lot of people won't think this is important to me, but you want to choose someone that walks the walk, right? You're not going to choose someone who obviously is not training hard, looks in shape, or, you know, putting out the literature that you can see the fruits of their labor. So if you're choosing someone, you know, because of some other, you know, situation besides what they, you know, the way they are, I think that's kind of a mistake because you're probably setting yourself up for failure. So.
Outstanding. Anybody else got anything to add on that? Derek, you can't say anything because you got your coach right there.
I know, right? It's like,
No, I think Phil hit the nail on the head with the, you know, somebody that walks the walk, right? Like, I mean, you know, we've all seen it. You go to the gyms and you see, you know, trainers in there, right, doing personal training. And you're like, man, like that client should be training the trainer, right? It really just looks like that. And it's like, man, they're in far better shape than, you know, somebody that just doesn't. Yeah, maybe they have the you know, they have, you know, the knowledge. But if they're not applying it, right, like that raises question marks for me, right? I want to see somebody that's walking the walk, right? It that's not necessarily to mean that they have to have had, you know, 50 first place trophies, or really that they've even necessarily had to have competed before. I don't think that's necessarily a prerequisite. But I think I mean, in order for somebody that is going to prepare you for a contest, if they haven't been all the way into the trenches and understanding what that's going to feel like, that I think that could, you know, that could create a barrier, you know, for them to be able to get you there.
Outstanding. Thank you, gentlemen. Something else that comes up around this time of year, I hate seeing this on social media where someone's like doing a TikTok or Instagram, whatever, where they're like, look, I just walked into the gym on January 2nd and they see people that are doing exercises that are less than unorthodox. They're doing the exercises wrong and they're going to hurt themselves. But there's like, instead of going up to help that person, they're making fun of them by putting the stuff up on social media. And you got to think, what if you were that person that woke up the next day thinking, oh, this is going to be funny. And, oh man, that's me. You know what I'm saying? So, but that being said, instead of making fun of folks, we should be trying to helping them. But there's that fine line. How do you go to try to help somebody without coming across like you're patronizing them, or you're almost, I want to say shaming them, but you're almost like embarrassing them? What do you do?
Yeah, it definitely is a fine line, you know, because you don't want to come across as the arrogant know-it-all and tell somebody they're doing something wrong, because then that hurts their ego, or, you know, especially if they didn't ask for it, they may not be receptive to talking to anybody about it. So you're already kind of losing right off the bat if people don't want to hear from you. If it's a gym you frequent or you work at that gym as a trainer, like I work at a gym as a trainer, so I'm usually going to see the same people there at the gym all the time. So I would just say start an initial conversation with the person. And then through just building a relationship, then you can bring that stuff up. Because if you're noticing somebody doing something wrong, you could just say, hey, man, what's up? My name's Derek. You know, I see you come here at this time all the time. Maybe even in that conversation, you could say, hey, I saw you're doing shoulders today. What are you working on? Like exercises. And then maybe that's an intro to say like, hey, well, you know, and then maybe correct them or show them how you do it. But you kind of have to feel that out, right? Because it is kind of a fine line. Maybe just start with the intro, introduce yourself so that there's some familiarity with who you are, so they don't just think you're some stranger trying to tell them what to do. And maybe you can bring it up another day, you know, hey, I saw you doing shoulders yesterday. Looked like it kind of hurt, you know, or hey, I don't want you to hurt yourself, or like, hey, let me show you how I do it, or, you know, a better way. But yeah, I'd probably go that way, you know, just start with the introduction. Introduce yourself, you know, build some relationship with them, and then maybe there'll be an opening that initial conversation for you to give them some feedback.
Sweet. Yeah, I have that problem where I'll see someone doing something and I'm like, oh, they're doing it wrong. And I mean, I don't talk to them because I'm afraid of, like you said, I'm going to come across as arrogant. And I'm like, who is this old guy? Leave me alone. But yeah, thank you. Because I think we could really, instead of having as Brandon, who couldn't make it on the show today. Brandon has on his podcast talking about how it's, he calls it little D energy when people walk around, doing that TikTok videos of people. And it's time to stop doing that. It's time to stop being a jerk, because then that's what makes people not want to come to the gym. You know what I mean? So anyone else got any other advice that maybe to give? Or I think Derek pretty much hit it on the head, right? Hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I definitely struggle. I've never been able to be that guy that approaches people like, hey, it's like in my mind, I'm like, they look like a really nice person. And I know that I could make a good approach and it would come off just fine. But like, I really don't want to be that guy. Right. Like, and, as much as you want to help somebody, you want to see somebody and I'm especially, maybe especially generally there are people that are newer to the gym. I'm like, when I were that new to the gym, I really wish somebody would have maybe corrected me. Right. So it's like, that's that fine line. Like, man, I really want to say something, but I just don't want to, maybe them not to be receptive to it and to completely ruin the interaction. So it is a fine line. In my mind, I'm always like, I really wish they would just ask me. I wish they would say something to me. I would go out of my way. I would take a 20-minute pause in my workout to explain it, to help them, whatever that is. But, you want to help people, but sometimes I just wish they would ask me,
Yeah. And one thing I might add too is and I say this because sometimes I'll do exercise a little different or unconventional than what the textbook says. So you could always just ask them hey, I saw you doing this when you were doing curls. Is there any specific reason you're training them that way? Or just ask them if they understand why they're doing the movement the way they're doing it and see how they explain it to you. And that'll kind of tell you what they know, because some people adjust things because they don't feel it the typical way. And they might be able to explain that to you. Oh, I do this because I hurt my shoulder and this movement just feels better for me, more comfortable. Then it's like, well, okay, that kind of makes sense. Why it looked a little off to me. And but some people are just adjusting things to their body. They might know the proper way, but sometimes I'll do a movement a little wider or a little closer because I'm trying to hit the muscle a certain way, especially when we get into bodybuilding, we're adding extra benches and doing different things. So it could be one of those situations, but again, it could just be an opening for you. Like, hey, I saw you doing it this way. Is there any way you do it that way? I want to learn from you in case there's something I'm missing. Now you put them in a position to teach you. And they're like, honestly, I don't know. I just saw a guy do this on TikTok. And it's like, oh, shoot, man, then let me show you how to do this if you don't mind. And then usually they're like, oh, okay, cool. Now I know, because I was just doing it the way I saw a guy on TikTok do it. So that'll usually open it up. And I found most of the time people are more open with like I said, either they're just copying somebody or, they're trying to work around an injury, and then that just opens you up for other conversations. So
I think a lot of times, in their mind, it's a perfect rep, right? They're not even trying to work around an injury. They're not trying, in their mind it's perfect, but you're looking at it oh my goodness, what are they doing? Right. And so, so that's kind of an interesting spot too. It's just they think they're doing exactly right. Right. So I don't know.
Something so now that we have the new year upon us, we have a lot of different stuff going on. Phil, even though you've retired as the competitor, I see you're super busy on Generation Iron and Iron Man magazine. What does 2023 hold for you?
Oh man, yeah, you're right. It almost feels like I'm not retired, to be honest with you. It's just I think I'm more busy now than I was, because when you're prepping, it's mainly all about you, And I think now, because I'm not prepping myself, I have more clients than ever. I'm actually still doing a couple of plans tonight because some guy hit me up. He's a disabled vet and he wants me to do a plan for him. I got this guy who's actually a men's physique guy, so watch out, Congo. He actually competed. Yeah, he competed back in 2018. I trained him, and he did the OCB Yorton Cup. He placed third in his class when I trained him then. He took a few years off because he's in the Navy. He's a fireman. So he's back from deployment, so he wants to get back this year. So I'm starting back training with him, and so it's exciting to see what he can bring. And he wants to do the Natural Olympia, maybe the Mr. America. So he may even do my show if we can get him in shape. So a lot of things are happening. And of course, I got my show April 29th and trying to get that blown up as much as possible. Denny Keikos wanted me to put on the show all by myself, you know, without them coming out. But it is so much work. Promoting is something that I don't have that business mindset, you know, so I don't enjoy going through and trying to get this and that. So I just have too busy of a job and lifestyle. So they're going to come out and help, but I've already got the Camp Pendleton team that came out that was at the Olympia this past year. So that
whole at your show last year too. They go crazy in there. I love it.
Oh, you know,
awesome.
So it's going
Joe
to be, Joe. So it's going to be good. And then you know, the promoters, myself, Brandon Lirio, Chris Moore, Monica Steiner, we're trying to really do some new things to hopefully, you know, improve things within the federation. So we're trying to just do, you know, some brainstorming, I should say, to, you know, talk to the Keikos and find out, you know, what they think. So that could be coming up soon. I don't know if I should say anything about that, but Brandon and me are talking about it. But so we got a lot of big things happening. I will probably be involved with possible guest posing for Brandon Stewart's show. He's going to have his first show in Nebraska later on in the year, I think it's September. And, you know, just maybe judging a bunch of shows. And, you know, I'm working with the 2-time champ right here, hoping to bring him to his 3rd win and, you know, some other titles in the future, you know, and I know Brandon Lirio is going to be coming back. So, you know, he's the man too. So it's going to always be fun. I love being involved with the sport in any way possible. So I'm glad that I'm retired, not stepping on stage, but still involved. So,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Outstanding. Well, Derek, I guess you're going for number 3 this year, correct?
Yeah, I guess I am.
That's out the bag.
But yeah, right. But yeah, definitely, you know, want to get that 3rd title, going for that for sure. I haven't decided on any shows before that. I know last year I did 3, the year before that I did 3. And it is a lot. I'm definitely going to go for a longer off season this year, because if it were last year, I'd be starting my prep in a month or 2, basically, you know, to get ready for the first show. So definitely more business focused, you know, this year, especially just me moving out to Vegas last year and trying to get settled in the middle of me being in my competition season. Just take more time to focus on the clients. Like Coach said, I've been getting more clients, more athletes that want to do a show this year. So focusing on getting them ready for their shows and competitions, and you know, giving them that energy and time, especially since it's their first show for a handful of them. So, but yeah, then just keeping myself dialed in, you know, and ready to go, so that when the time comes, we can pull the trigger and get into a prep. Might be looking at a show closer to September, October, November, if I do a show before the Natural Olympia. And that's kind of all the detail I know right now. So we'll see how other things go, working on some different projects. So yeah.
Good stuff. Colin, other than hoping to see the Eagles win the Super Bowl this year, what else you got?
Oh man, so got a couple of things coming up with my team, Tiger Fitness and MTS Nutrition. We're doing some stuff for the Arnold, so that'll be in a month or so. And then I think you know, kind of what I'm kind of outlining for myself is I'd be looking to do the USA show at the end of September out in Vegas, followed by the Natural Olympia again. So I'm still, you know, still have aspirations to win that title again. You know, obviously, you know, I'm getting older and younger guys are coming in, new guys are coming in. But, you know, this year, you know, was able to take that 3rd place spot, and felt good to be back on the podium, and have aspirations to continue to climb that podium and get back where I want to end up. So.
Outstanding. I'll have just a few for myself. I wanted to do your show, Phil, this year, but I really let myself get too chubby this off season. I know I can't pull it off in a couple of weeks. So that's next year. I've already got it on my calendar. If I don't do a Philip Ricardo show, then I'm doing bodybuilding month. So I just know I have to wait a little bit. I am going to do a competition in October that I have to redeem myself because I didn't prep well enough last year and it showed. So I'm redeeming myself. I'm going to do also an NPC Natural Ohio. And then also in the same vein, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Sebastian McLean. He did a documentary called Facing Goliath. It was an older man who was overweight, turned his life over by doing natural bodybuilding and got in really good shape. So Rico van Housen out of the Netherlands dubbed me the Cleveland Oak. So I'm making a documentary called Becoming the Cleveland Oak. It's going to be shot on an iPhone, so I know how great it's going to be. But that's the plan, to hopefully inspire others. This is not a pat me on the back moment. It's a look, if my old butt can do it, so can yours. And see how 2023, I think, is going to be a great year for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking forward to seeing that documentary come together. And like I indicated in our other conversation, you can make a great film on your iPhone. So
Yeah.
let that be.
Oh man, the things you can do with the technology today, it's
Yeah.
like, you know, can you imagine if we tried to do this, try to make a documentary in the gym with like a VHS camera? It just wouldn't work. It would not go over well. So, all right, gentlemen. Well, thank you so much. I'll let you guys get back to your regularly scheduled lives. I appreciate you guys so much. You have no idea.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for having
us again, and let's do it again sometime.
Oh, we got to make this a regular thing, man. For real. God bless you guys.
Take care. God bless.
All right. See you, Chris.